For example, measles, the dreaded measles that they say everybody will die from. No measles vaccine, we're all going to die, right? That is the impression they give you. You have any idea how many people died of measles in the years before there was a measles vaccine in the United States?
How many?
About 400 a year.
That's it?
That's it. 400 a year died in the United States at a time when everybody had measles, which comes out to about 1 in 450,000 Americans dying of measles. That's in the CDC. Anybody listening to this who's like, come on, that's not true. CDC mortality documents on the CDC website, cited in my book, 400.
And don't about 50,000 people every year die from the flu?
Well, that statistic is includes bacterial deaths that they say are potentially the result from having influenza. But
so your immune system gets weakened and then something else hits you and that kills you? Is that the idea behind it?
Well, that's just the way they gather the data, is the way I'll put it. But with influenza, well, let me if I can finish up with the measles, because I think this is important on the measles one, and I can deal with influenza as well. But on the measles one, just to really, because you're saying, well, everybody would die without these. I don't think people think of influenza, by the way. They think of measles.
Right.
They think of those diseases.
Right.
I don't ever hear anybody say to me, well, everybody will die of influenza without influenza vaccines. Everybody, it's available. Everybody can get it. The mortality hasn't changed much. In fact, if you look at the mortality of influenza before influenza vaccines were widespread, we're not doing that great. Okay. Anyway, putting that aside for a moment.
Not only that, isn't there data that shows that if you get it, you're more likely to get other colds?
Yeah, I have a whole giant footnote in my book about this, and I actually tweeted this out and did a Substack about this, a whole series of articles, studies that show that those that have had the influenza vaccines, maybe these studies often reflect have around the same rate of influenza. Maybe they have less respiratory influenza infections. But many studies show they have multiple times the rate of other respiratory infections. So good job. Maybe you reduced your risk of influenza by this much, but you've increased your risk of another different respiratory disease by that much.
How much is it? How much is the increase?
Depends on the study. Some studies show 4 times risk. Some studies show 3 times risk. Yeah. I mean, literally 3, 4. I mean, huge percentages. So, and they're statistically significant in these studies. And so, when you're looking at now these are all retrospective epidemiological studies. But when you do a retrospective epi study, which means you take existing data and then you study it versus saying, okay, we're going to do a study and follow people going forward. Okay. If you find like a 1.3 time, which means 30% increased risk, like that's a publishable finding. This is 400% increased risk. Yes, in many of these studies. It's inconvenient data, so obviously it's not talked about.
Right. So 400 people is not a whole lot. I'm sure, I mean, it's sad when 400 people die. But it's also one of those diseases that when you're a child, it's much more survivable, right, than adult. Adult, it's rough, isn't it?
Yeah. So measles, the ideal age to get it is not when you're an infant, which in the pre-vaccine era, infants typically did not get measles because they got maternal immunity from the mother. And you don't want to get it as an adult because it is more likely to cause problems, which again, in the pre-vaccine era wasn't a problem because everybody virtually got it as a child. And
right.
Yeah.
And when you got it as a child, my recollection of it was the episode of the Brady Bunch. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Remember that episode?
Yeah, they were laughing about it.
Let's watch this. Find that clip and let's watch it because it's so indicative of what measles was actually like in the culture of the people that would get it all the time versus this boogeyman of today. I mean, it's so stark. It's like, imagine the kid coming home, hey, Mom, I've got AIDS. I got to stay home from school. It's not that, right?
It's the way that most folks who've had chickenpox think of chickenpox.
Right. But we're told that it's killing people. And we're told that it's killing people now. We're told that it's always kids. We're told it's killing kids now.
Yeah.
And look, if anybody dies from measles, I'm very sad. But I want to know, is it with measles? Remember the with COVID or from COVID? Mm-hmm. Like, what kind of condition were these people in before this hit them? Because that was the thing about COVID. It's like, it's fatal. If you have 4+ comorbidities, you're more likely to be fatal. And that was most of the people that wind up dying from it, right?
That's almost certainly the case, and I can add another data point to that to help support that, which is that between 1900, and this is again CDC data, between 1900 and the late 1950s, early 1960s, the mortality from measles declined in the United States by over 98%. You know what didn't cause that?
Vaccines.
Yeah, because it didn't exist. I know. So
right.
But
so immunity had become a herd thing, just like COVID-ish right now.
Well,
Everybody basically has had COVID, or at least has been exposed to it by now.
Yeah.